Hello, welcome back. Today I've got something pretty special for you guys. This is a 2x2 glass hipster door. The point of the hipster door is that there are no pistons above the ground and you cannot see any redstone. This is also a completely seamless and glass door, so that means when you open it, the floor retracts and you can't see any pistons either. So now you can just walk on through, grab your baby squid, and head back out. Click the lever again to close it, and it's completely seamless. The opening's not the fastest thing in the world. It is a hipster door after all, but I do consider the closing fairly quick. So now let's look at it without all the blocks on top. This version here, I actually got it to fit within an 8x4x6. So it's 8 blocks long, 4 blocks wide, and 6 blocks tall. The reason it's 6 is because I have to have this block of floors here for it to power the triple piston extender. But even with that, it's still only 192 blocks in volume. I do not use any type of cobwebs or silly redstone mechanics, so the door is actually really easy to build and it's fast too. So let me show you what it looks like without all the blocks on top. That is the opening. There's the close. I'll show you guys one more time. Okay. So I'm going to try something a bit new today. Instead of jumping straight into the tutorial, I'm actually going to show you guys and teach you how the store actually works, because I think it's fairly interesting. So I'm going to begin by showing you guys the piston layout and how all the pistons interact with each other to open the store. So what we have here is a triple piston extender down at the bottom to get the very top glass block, 2 pushers to keep storage of the glass blocks, and a puller over here to storage the iron block and then put it back. So the very first step for the opening is we have to power this piston and store it over here. Then we fire a double piston extender. I'm gonna move these glass blocks back here so it's easier to see. The double piston will pull the glass block down to here, and we use the puller as a pusher too to store the glass block. Then we have a triple piston extender, grab the very top glass block. Again, the pusher will fire once more, and that will store all the glass blocks. And then the pusher will push the iron block back to here, and we fire the top piston again to close it. So now this is the full opening. If for the closing, we do the exact same for the iron block. We pull it down, pull it to the side to keep it in storage. And we use the pusher, and we fire only the top row of pistons. And that will get the 2 glass blocks back. And then the exact same again. This pushes over, this pushes up, and that is the full close. So I'm going to show you step by step exactly what each circuit and how it works. So the very first circuit that we use for both the opening and the closing is the one where we pull this iron block down to the left. So what this does here, this is also the input of the door. We flick this lever, it'll power both observers at the exact same time, and then that will power this note block powering these pistons. That will pull the blocks down to here. Then I use this piston to update this observer, powering this piece of redstone, which powers both these pistons in the back, pulling it to the left. So now we do that for the opening, and then once it closes, it'll look like this. And then we do the same thing. Pull the blocks down, and then we can do the full closing by pushing the glass blocks up. But let's just start with the opening for now. So we pull down the blocks to here to here. We keep this red circuit for the next one, because the next one is the double piston extender, which will grab the glass blocks down to here, and then these iron blocks will push them over one to the left. So how this works is I use a really simple, the very well-known double piston extender, which is a 4-tick repeater with the observer facing up, and I actually use the floor block to power this piston. What happens next is I have a delay between the double piston extender, which will power this piece of redstone from the red circuit, powering both pistons again, and that is the pusher, which will push the glass to the right. And how I control this is through this note block down at the bottom. There you go, that's the double. Okay. The next step is to do the triple. So we are currently here, and so I made a triple piston extender, but unlike the double, this one is much more complicated. So I actually have to use a observer detecting a button pulse. This will power the triple, but it won't do the complete retraction. So that gets me down to here. But once we get down to here, this row of glass blocks is actually within range of the double piston extender again. And so I reuse my double piston extender to grab these blocks and pull them down. And because the double piston extender already has the pushing circuit, I don't have to worry about my pushing anymore. There you go. And as you can see, for the final push, the blocks actually come back to here, and I take that opportunity and time it perfectly so that I push up these two iron blocks at the exact moment these glass blocks get pushed over. How I did that is I have an observer right here detecting the air block right in front of it, and then another observer facing into the top piston. So when I push this iron block over, it pushes this glass block to here, which powers the observer, which fires the top row of pistons. And that timing is actually just perfect enough that the iron blocks get pushed up. And that's how I do my full opening. Now, just like the opening before, we pull down the iron blocks, push them to the side. And the closing works by using this exact same observer setup, except this time when I power the pistons, it triggers it and pushes the glass blocks up instead of the iron one. And now this row of pistons will also update it, which will push up the glass blocks again. But since I'm on a delay of 4 ticks, after 4 ticks, this row of pistons will turn off, which will also update the bottom row of pistons, firing it once more. And like before, I use this opportunity to update, or to push these blocks in, and it'll fire up doing the full close. So as you can see here, when I turn off this row of pistons, these glass blocks will get retracted, but instead of that, I will have these push in at the exact moment. How I did that is I use this piston right here, moving this observer, which powers this delay from the 4-tick repeater of the double, and that's just the perfect timing to get the full close. So I can probably show you it quickly. I was missing a row of pistons, of course. So here's the full close. And there you go. That's how my hipster door works. So let me show you guys how to build this. This should be everything you need. I may have missed a few items or so, but if it did, please comment down below. It's a lot of items to count, so I probably messed up. But anyways, let's begin. So since I made this hipster door really compact, I had to put a lot of redstone down at the bottom, because otherwise I just couldn't fit it. So We have a lot of observers down here facing down and pointing to the left. So if I were you, I'd make some space down here so you can work easily. But let's begin by putting down 2 rows of sticky pistons, 3 high. So these are triple piston extenders. And if you go 1 block up, this is where your floor is. And that's where the glass goes. This is just for perspective. So if you're building it into a build somewhere. Now I'm going to put 2 sticky pistons there. You could also put them on the right, it doesn't matter. We can flip it. The store works in either direction. Go 2 blocks away, like so, and have 2 normal pistons facing the center. And put another 2 normal pistons facing the center right behind it. And that's our piston layout, so we can begin. So the first circuit is the red one. This is where it pulls the iron blocks down and pushes it to the left. We're going to have our input from where the normal pistons are on the left side. Make sure it's the left side. I guess you could flip it too, but I'm going to do left side for now. This is where our lever goes into this observer. You're going to have it diagonal to the top piston, just like that. 2 blocks underneath and 2 redstone. This runs into a note block, just like that. And we run 2 observers, 1 reading the note block, 1 reading the observer. So now both of these observers will fire at the same time. We're going to put a block here underneath the observer so that we can put our repeaters. Face them towards the pistons, set both of them to 2. Put a note block right in front of the repeater. So that will do the firing. And to get these back pistons to fire, put a piston, normal one, facing straight up. This is on the right side of where the lever is. This will power the piston will update this observer, which will power this block. From this block, go over diagonal 1 to the right, redstone dust, and a block. And this redstone dust will power both pistons. And that's how you do the first block retraction. So, for this store to work, we have to have a T flip-flop somewhere. So the T flip-flop is for when it only fires the double piston and triple on the opening, and on the close it only fires the extenders. Okay? So from where this note block is, next to the red block, face it straight down and have an observer facing towards the red blocks pointing down, or facing to the left. Okay, I'm going to take out my note block. And so when I flick this lever down, it'll power this note block, but when I flick it up, it will not power it. So this note block is what will trigger the double piston extender. So from this note block here, I'm going to have an observer facing to the left towards the center. This runs into a block. I'm going to change to magenta because this is the double piston extender now. Into a block, the note block on that side, into another observer, and a note block. So this is just a power line. It's just to transfer the signal all the way to the back. And then we're going to have an observer facing straight up, a block here, and from where this block is, an observer facing straight down, and 1 pointing back. So this sets up the platform for the double piston extender. Point 2 repeaters facing into these pistons, set to 4 both, and then put redstone behind it. This is a simple double piston extender. The point of this observer detecting this redstone repeater is to give it a delay, because now you can put a note block here, observer reading the note block pointing to the right. This is on the side of the lever, up to a block, and a block here, and repeater set to 4. So that is the pusher circuit, which will push the iron blocks over by 1 after we do the double retraction. And we can test it actually. If you put a piece of redstone dust here and an observer facing the redstone dust, this is to power the pusher. I don't know why, for whatever reason it will not work without it, but it's okay because we need this observer here anyways to close it. So just put that there. We can test it. And there is the first block retraction and the double. Okay. The next step is the triple piston extender. So for the triple, we're going to go down to where the note block is at the T flip-flop. We're going to put down 2 blocks here, 2 repeaters set to 4, running into the very bottom row of pistons. Then we're going to have 2 pieces of redstone here, and then you can leave, and reading the redstone now, you can put an observer facing outwards that detects redstone, and one pointing towards the pistons. Do this on both sides. Observer, and observer pointing towards the pistons. And now we're gonna only on this side, which is the side with the lever, we're gonna put an observer facing towards the right, towards the lever. Just like that, okay? Only on this side. The left side, we can just put a block here and a repeater at the 2. And then you could also put a repeater set to 2 on top of this one. And if I put a observer facing up into this note block and another one on top of it, this is how the triple piston extender works. We have to put blocks here to power the triple. So now we have the triple piston extender. How we connect the triple to the double is rather simple. I have on the side where the green block is with the repeater pointing towards the back, put a piece of redstone right in front of it, like so. Have an observer reading it. That observer will have a sticky piston facing straight up, diagonal to it. And then you can put a block here, right next to this pink and the red one. And have a observer 1 block above the piston. So how this works is the first pulse of the button will pull down the observer to here, which won't do anything, and only on the second pulse it'll push it up, and that will fire the double. Okay, so now the double and the triple are connected. How we time it wise, so after the original double piston extender fires and it pulls the blocks down to, so we have these blocks here. It pulls the first row of glass blocks down to here and pushes it over. We take the signal from the double. So this is the double piston extender line. So if you follow it down, it goes into this note block, and right before it there's an observer, and you face that towards the right on the side of the lever. Face that to the back. We read this observer, face it to the back. Face it in this direction towards the lever again, up, to the right, and down, making a little swastika. Mojang, please remove. And then, so that's all. The point of all these observers is just for a delay. I could not find another way to delay it long enough, so we have to do a little observer snake that goes from there to the left, to the right, all the way around into here. So how I got the button pulse is I use a dropper. If I have one facing up and one facing down, and put a block or a piece of redstone or cobblestone, doesn't matter, just any item that's not a sword or like a shovel, something like that. A block here and a comparator to detect it. So when I power it, let's pretend you're doing that for now. It'll update and power the dropper, which will send a signal, or which will send the item to the top dropper, powering this observer. Oh my god, this comparator. So now I will detect that comparator by having a observer there, reading it, pointing it to the left, and one facing into the redstone. So that does the first pulse of the button. For the second pulse, we're actually going to have to remove this one on the side of the lever. Observer facing up, reading this observer, and one facing to the right. We can put the repeater back, set to 2. What this will do, it will turn off this dropper, pushing the item back down to here, which will do the second pulse of the button. Okay. So now everything should be in place for the entire opening. Before we test it though, we gotta make sure everything is in the correct spot because stuff does move around while we're building it. So make sure this observer is actually not in front of the note block yet, because when we flick the lever, it'll update it, which will power the double. And now we can check the triple. Make sure this observer is pointing into the green block and not actually here, because if it's here, it'll also break. And that finally, the item is in the bottom dropper. Once you've double checked that, you can flick the lever. And there's the full opening, except for the final block close. But I already explained how that one works. And that's because we don't have the opening yet. So opening's really simple actually, since we're already done with all the complicated stuff. We're go to where the T flip-flop is with the note block, have a repeater on top of it facing towards the left, towards the lever. So now when I flick the lever again, it'll power this repeater and only the repeater. So we can detect that by putting a observer reading the repeater. I have another observer facing up, one to the left, and one to the right of this observer. I have an observer facing up reading this one, a note block in front of this one, and another observer facing up. So that will time both of these extenders to power at the exact same time. If I flicked it, that'll do the full opening because the T flip-flop. When I flick it again, it'll power just these rows of pistons right here. And if I put a repeater there and there, both of them to 4, it'll power these rows of pistons second. Okay. So now we just gotta put in that little pushing circuit. So right in front of these 2 pushers, or of the normal pistons, you can put 2 observers facing straight down, 2 observers facing into the top row of sticky pistons. So now if you check where the observer is, if it's at the top, touching the piston, this is on the opening. So the next one, it'll get pushed down, which will do the closing. So that means it is currently, the door is currently closed. If I flick it, it'll do the full opening. And since we have the observers in place, it'll push the blocks up. The final thing we need to do before we test the closing is put a sticky piston on the side with the lever facing into this observer. This will power this observer, which we put in earlier, which will do the full closing. And there we go. So this is my 2x2 glass hipster door. I tried a different style of tutorial this time. I'm not sure if you guys will like it more. I went more with a more freestyle. But if you guys did, please comment down below. Tell me if you liked it. Tell me if I explained things too fast during the tutorial. But yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, and I almost forgot. I also made a Discord channel. The link will be in the description. If you guys want to join it, we could build redstone together. And if you guys need any help, I can teach you guys. So yeah.